Hello and welcome. Today I am starting a new project and it is a junk journal. I am not a very precise or careful person. I'm a quick do it person, and junk journaling works perfectly for this. So this is going to end up quite wonky and I'm not going to be measuring anything. But I've ended up with a book that I love, which is the most important thing for me and that I'm going to be able to use. So when I start with a junk journal, I usually start off with a book, but I've actually started off with papers this time because I couldn't pick a book. So I collect papers. I have scrapbooking papers. I carefully take pages out of books as well as tearing them out of books. I love gridded and lined papers from notebooks. I've got like an old atlas pages here. I have all sorts of different ones. And I love lots of different and interesting textures. And colours and interesting pictures and things that make me happy. So I'm starting off by pulling a few out. I haven't decided how many pages it needs or anything like that. I'm just pulling out a whole bunch of things that feel nice and that I would like to use. So I'm just having a flick through, making sure that I have a decent variety here. And then I'm going to start folding them. So the next stage after collecting papers is folding. I have an idea of the size I'm working for, obviously. I've got some smaller books that I'm going to pick from. So things that need folding, I fold. And sometimes I like turn them inside out, like decide which way around I want it, especially because I have a lot of single-sided scrapbooking papers here. Sometimes it's hard to decide if I should fold it one way or the other, but also don't overthink it. It doesn't really matter. So I just fold everything so that I have all these little pieces that are ready to make the signatures. And now I've decided I'm using a little golden book. I actually dismantled this a little while ago and I'll be adding a spine in for it later. But I'm keeping the little golden book cover out just so I can eyeball pages that are going to fit within the book. So for me, it's really important that everything is contained within at the start. You're allowed to make things hang out later, but if the pages themselves are generally speaking slightly smaller than the cover of the book, then that is useful. I am just randomly using scissors and my paper trimmer and ripping and eyeballing all of these. I, generally speaking, like my pages to be a similar size. I do have some that are a little bit smaller and a little bit bigger, which I think makes it interesting. I don't like them to be all exactly the same size. I feel like it doesn't have a nice texture when they're all the same size, but I'm just like quickly eyeballing and going through and getting all of the pages down to a size that I need. This is creating a little pile of offcuts, but I actually love that pile of offcuts and we'll be using it for a few different things for this project. And as I'm going and I'm cutting some of these pieces off, I'm actually getting really excited about some of those pieces. Like, look at that pig I've just ripped off. I'm like, oh, that's such a good thing. I love that. So, yeah, some of those pages will be amazing here. Here's another one that I got really excited about. I'm chopping Australia off. I'm going to use that. I have in the past added things like pockets and stuff to a junk journal, but I don't love pockets. I don't really use them. And one of the lovely things about journaling and making journals is coming back to them and enjoying them. And I just don't think about stuff in pockets, so I don't put pockets into my journals. So just doing a quick tidy, collecting everything together, putting aside my special bits, and now that I have all of my pages, I'm just spreading them out. I try and make sure that I don't have too many similar things near each other, and that just makes it a little bit more interesting. I worked out I needed one extra page for these to be even, and so I grabbed an extra magazine page. And now what I'm doing is I'm just putting some signatures together. I do this fairly quickly. I don't want to fuss about it too much, but I don't want super similar pages to be next to each other. I like to think about how I might approach it, but then it's still just a really quick process. So I just chuck all the pages together that I'm having in my signature, and I quite often make sure that I have a few of the outside pages that are more interesting looking, just because you see that a lot when you're working on the journal. But generally speaking, I'm just trying to make it look inviting and sort of have an order to it that I think will make it enjoyable to work inside of. So I picked my little golden book cover, and I have taken it apart and I've made it a little bit of a spine. And I just did this with fabric glue and some card, and I stitched it on the sewing machine. So it's the first time I've ever made a spine like this, but I was very impatient and I was trying to think of something that would be sturdy but also quick, because I did not want to wait. So I've put it together and I feel pretty happy about it. I've given it a decent amount of depth, because I have made 6 little signatures here and I want to be able to fit everything in. And I am making myself up a little bit of a guide, because I shall not be measuring anything, because I do not have the patience for that. I'm just sticking it in the center of this spine and I'm just drawing those lines on. I'm also going to put some spacing markers on, just so that they're relatively straight and evenly spaced. And then I'm going to work on sewing the signatures in. So I like to use bulldog clips just to hold everything still. I have an awl and I hold the guide on and I stab all of the holes. I'm also going to, after I've set up my thread, also poke holes in the spine. So I'm not expending any extra effort poking it through. I'm just threading it through holes that already exist. And so that's how I do it. I start in the center, I come back on the side, go to the other side and come back through the center. So it's just a very, very simple stitch, making sure that I'm tying the 2 center threads around the middle thread. And I find that it's simple, it's quick, it's sturdy. I really like the effect of having those stitches on the outside of the spine. And I also I always pick a color thread because I love to see the thread on the inside as well. So it's pretty simple, it's pretty quick, it's pretty wonky. Like if you were making a different sort of book, not measuring stuff probably would make it look awful, but because it's junk journal, because the pages are cut wonky and they're torn, because nothing is the same size, doing it like this is completely appropriate. And I love the raggedy soft edges it sort of gives to everything. It feels very inviting to me, and it doesn't matter how much time I have, I can just sit down and work on this a little bit. So you can see I've put in the first and the last signature, and I've just spaced out a little marking for the rest of the signatures so that they're relatively evenly spaced. This journal has turned out quite wonky. I didn't realize it when I was sewing it because I wasn't measuring anything, but the spine is a little bit wonky, but it doesn't matter because I think it's beautiful and I'm enjoying it. And I feel like junk journals, like if it makes you happy to make your junk journal nice and straight, that's great. But for me, it makes me so happy to keep it nice and wonky. So I'm just stitching these through, making sure that it's quite tight. I'm taking a little bit of extra time just to like gently ease the thread so that there isn't any slack hiding anywhere, because it won't be nice if your signatures are floppy inside of the book. So just making sure that everything is nice and tight and sturdy, and getting everything stitched in there. The reason that I do journaling is mostly for like creative expression and happiness, really. So I don't have a firm idea yet of what I'm going to be using this journal for. I have been thinking about using it to record favorite quotes or for planning an idea recording. I have lots of little bits and pieces of ideas, and I don't necessarily have to use it for a single thing either. I think that your junk journal can be for whatever you want it to be. I could think of prompts and illustrate them, but I find that it's not just making for making's sake, but it almost is. And I find that making is it's a very beneficial activity. And it's one of those things that makes me really happy. And not everything that I make has to be useful. I do really love to make useful things, and I think it's really beneficial and important to make useful things because you extend the enjoyment in different ways when you make useful items. Because you get to enjoy the making of them, but then you also get to enjoy the using of them. But for this one, it's mostly just I need some happy, cheerful, colourful paper projects in my life at the moment. So that is the purpose of this guy. And we will probably discover what we're going to be using for him as we go along. So once I have all of these signatures in, I'm admiring my work. Not that it's perfect or straight, but it's making me happy. So I've pulled out some of the more colourful papers. Most of these are scrapbooking papers that from my offcuts, because the thing I do love to add into a junk journal is tabs. I have especially made sure that the signatures are just a little shy of the edge of this cover because I want to add tabs in. And I have in recent times tabbed every single page in a junk journal. It can be quite fun to do that, but this time I've decided to add 4 tabs per signature. And the way that I make them is I just decide on a size that seems nice and I just freehand chop a whole bunch of papers up. Some of these papers are double-sided, so I will cut the strip into 2 and I'll use both sides, but others of them are single-sided, but I will use them more than once inside. So I just rough cut everything when I'm making tabs. Sometimes if I'm like set up near my sewing machine, I might stitch the tabs on, especially if I want to add lace or ribbons or other things at the same time. But when I am just working quickly like this and I just want to get a fun journal set up to work inside of, I just double-sided sticky tape them. And I don't measure anything perfectly. My technique, generally speaking, is I shove the first tab in there and then I decide what page I want to add it to, and then just eyeball making sure that it sticks out past the next tab. So there will be odd gaps every now and then. There will be wonkiness to it, which is sort of the point, but also they're mostly visible along the side, and I just love the feel of it. And the tabs can just be left plain, and I probably will leave a lot of them plain as I work through the journal, but I can also add text or stickers or extra things to the tabs, especially if I want to quickly reference one of these pages. So I'm having trouble with the double-sided sticky tape there, but I rescued it. And also some of these pages have ended up quite a bit shorter than the others, and so the tabs won't actually end up with anything sticking out, just the ones I've cut. So you can always cut really long tabs if you have some of those shorter pages, just so that they stick out nicely still. The other thing that I'm going to have to spend some time thinking about and deciding is how I want to work in this journal, whether I want to do painting and use other wet media in it, whether it's an amalgamation of more scrapbooking style techniques and art techniques, or whether I want to keep it mostly as a cut and stick journal. I really enjoy both things, so I love me a cut and stick journal. I find them really simple but also freeing. You can spend a lot more time writing in them, and also if I feel the motivation for it, I can sit and work on multiple pages in a row. I love using art techniques and materials as well, but when you're using wet media, you get a bit stuck working on one journal until things dry. So you have to have more than one project on the go then, because if you have more time to sit and you don't have a lot of patience like I do, then you have to have more than one thing on the go so you can work on stuff while things are drying. So I'm going to have to think about that. I have been working on a bunch of art projects at the moment, and I have just recently got some mixed media paper so I can make some art journals as well, which I am really excited for, making some sketchbooks. So we'll see how I go. I usually, after I finished a junk journal like this, I will contemplate it for a few days before I start working inside of it, just because you got to soak in how it's turned out and think about it. I will be building a little bit of a kit to help me with this, because I find a kit really helpful, and it stops me from trawling through my supplies every single time I sit down to work, and it just helps me focus a bit, I think. So we'll see how this goes and what I decide exactly to do with it. As it's turning out, I feel like I'm really happy with this journal. I love how colourful it is. I think using like the little golden book covers was a brilliant idea. I think that it totally appeals to me and my style. I love the colours of it. I'm a very pink and green person, so that is sort of the colour theme I've pushed for this one. But I think that I'm going to have a lot of fun with this, and it is making me really happy. And I think that this style of book suits me quite well. So I will be continuing to work inside of it. We'll see what I decide materials-wise for this project. I'm not sure quite yet what I'm going to do, but I think no matter what I decide, it's going to be a lot of fun. If this has been fun for you as well, please hang around. We'll be doing another video next week, and share some of your fun things as well. I'll see you. Bye.